In this video, we're going to look at Switzerland and Austria in detail. As we move around Miniatur Wunderland, on the fence there are little tags, and these are in German and English, although I've only photographed the English side, which explain what you're looking at. Also, attached to the layout, there are little boxes with buttons on them, and these are used to activate a special type of animation. You'll be seeing both of these in action as we go around this layout. Before we start looking at the details of Switzerland, it's an area that you really need to look at the big picture, because it is just massive. At the moment we're on the 3rd floor, and looking at the scene from the bottom of the valley effectively. Trains climb up the mountains, and it's just, from the ground floor, it really is something to be seen. Then we're going to go upstairs and look at the same scene from above. And you can see just how fantastic this scenery is. Now you've seen the general view. Apart from the fact that Switzerland is visible from 2 separate floors, there's actually 2 separate sections of Switzerland. The first, as we see this train climbing up to the mountain through the snow shed, is all big scenery. And then the second part, it's just all fairly low level. And it's this lower level scenery that also has most of the real fine detail and animation. So we'll have a look at that as the starting point. Just around the corner from the Red Bull competition, we have a small factory, and it's making Lindt chocolate. You can see the chocolate moving along the conveyor belt. It's going into a wrapper, and it comes out with wrappers on it. And if you're lucky, one drops down into the tray, which you can then take home. Now we come to one of the real highlights of the Swiss part. It's this DJ Bobo concert. According to the sign, there's 20,000 people turned up for it, and it plays like crazy. And the big thing is you've got scenes on the screen, or you can see on the left, from the actual concert, and then in the model you've got the dancers and you've got the singers moving around on the stage. It really is something worth looking at. And it's also a case you get to hear this music all the time around this part of the scenery. Moving on, we come to this medieval fair, and there's so much little bits of animation that can be operated, such as the knights fighting there. We have the trumpeters up on the battlements, and sometimes there's a bit of an issue of trying to spot where each one of the little animation points are, but I've tried to do that. So coming on down the hill past the initial crew of knights, we then move into the second section, and there's again more knights playing, the audience watching what's going on. Then we cross over to a knight being gently lowered onto the horse, and there's a dueling knights. And finally we come back to an oxen that is on the spit. There's a chap trying to ride it, stay on top of a barrel, and it's just all these little animation pieces that are going on in among all the scenes in detail. Now we come to a little bit more modern part, and that building with the grey roof is a bank, and we can see on the side the fact that the bank is operating, but below it's been robbed and there is a tunnel. Now we move back to the main area of Switzerland, back down in the valley, the main station, and we can see construction going ahead. Cranes up there, and let's have a look. There they are, there's the cranes, and you can see the cranes moving. Again, just little bits of animation that happen. They're building a new bridge. It's an awfully large place to build it. There's lots of little bits of animation happening. Now we move up to the fourth floor. The first thing you see is a dam in the flooded township. Then we move on to a big cement plant. And again, there's all sorts of little animations that happen with that plant. But I just didn't quite get a chance to get a photo of all of them. And then we can take a step down into the scenery. It's almost into the scenery, so we can see the trains moving around. And we're actually almost within the whole scenery. The trains are both below us and at eye level. And then we can go into the mountain you can see a tunnel boring machine in action. Fantastic. Finally, we have this helix that allows the trains to move from the 3rd floor up to the 4th floor. Now we move on to Austria. Austria is actually quite a small display, but there's still a fair bit that happens within it. Lots of little bits of animation. We start off with a prison, and we have prisoners out in the exercise yard, and there's one there trying to escape. Whoops! And the sirens start, and the alarms go out. And right next to the prison is a water turbine, and then onto a little hotel, the chapel, and scenes from sort of the lakes around Austria. One of the things I was interested in looking at Austria was this funicular. And again, it's just another little piece of animation that they provide by and you can watch it just by pressing a button. And then in the middle of the general scene, all sorts of little items to see. It's really quite an interesting, you need to get down and get close to looking at a lot of these ones. And again, one of the animations is that cable car will go from the bottom up to the top. And then just below that table, there is lots of scenes, guest house, and obviously an Olympics. So we have the ice hockey, we have curling, most unusual for a model, and we have the ski jump. And then finally, one of the things that Austria has, only occurs at night.